hope you like this video. Just subscribe, like, and click the bell to be notified of more content just like this. Where are you?
I'm actually in the West Indies.
Go on.
When this thing started to look the way that it was looking, and the way things were looking in America, so I'm trying to just balance my camera right here. When things started to look the way that they were going, we made a plan, my wife and I, she's the clever one obviously, to get the hell out of America. Because with the election coming up, I felt that there was going to be a sort of borderline civil war, and I knew that with the election and COVID coming together, it was just going to be a bit of a mess. So we decided to try and get the hell out. And a friend of mine grew up in the West Indies, and she said, you know, Antigua is COVID free. And I was like, I did not know that. So we sort of started to scrabble together to get a plan to see if we could just move away for a couple of months. And so we rented out our place and found a little place down here where we could just try and keep the kids safe, you know?
Sure. The world's mad, mate, at the moment, isn't it?
Not in our lifetime have I ever seen anything quite as crazy, but hopefully we're rounding the corner, you know?
Yeah, I did have to smile that there was a big thing. He said, "Oh, we're American citizens. We can vote." And I thought, of all the elections in all the world, and they walk into mine. I mean,
yeah, that was yeah. I mean, it's been bonkers to say the least. Do you know what I mean? But as I say, you know, I'm an optimist, and I just hope that things begin to get a little bit better soon. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I think we're at a very low end, so hopefully there's only one place to go from here, you know?
How's it for you? I guess work-wise, everything's on hold, is it? Or do people still send you stuff and people talk, well, we're going to do this if and when kind of thing?
That's exactly it. I was due to start filming a new show in Los Angeles on the 25th, and that just got pushed. So we were about to head home back to LA, and then that just got pushed by 3 or 4 weeks, and that's really just a guide. So we don't really know when. So we just decided to stay down here a little bit longer until hopefully the numbers come down and the hospital capacity come down and all that kind of thing, you know.
What's Antigua like? I've been to Trinidad and Tobago. I've not been to Antigua. What's it like?
You know, it's very rural. It's beautiful, completely beautiful, but it's you know, very much a third world country in a lot of the island. You know, it's like a lot of the world. There's a great disparity between the haves and the have-nots, and it's but the people are some of the best people I've ever met in the world. They really are just amazing, warm, welcoming, fantastic, brilliant people. So it's been nice, and as I say, we've got some friends and we had some family come down and stuff. So it's been. I actually feel sort of guilty that we've sort of made a bit of an escape, you know, while so many of my loved ones are, my mum recently got COVID, my sister got COVID. So, you know, we're here in a lovely place, and we're also balancing the fact that, you know, a lot of people that we love are going through a really tough time at the moment. So, you know, it's a mixed bag, but we're grateful to be here and grateful to be safe.
Do you know what I've done this morning? I stumbled across Songs for Amy.
Oh, right, yeah.
I feel guilty. I feel guilty with these things because they go, right, you're interviewing Sean Maguire. So you not go from zero, but you know your stuff, but you sort of have to, you know, you start. I feel like a
refresh yourself.
Instagram, you're looking. So I'm going So I'm going, right. Let's see this. So yeah, it's on Netflix. Bang. So I watched Songs for Amy, which I loved, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I was fond of that film.
I bet you were. I mean, that was home from home, wasn't it? Really, in a sense, with music and Ireland and what have you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really, really fun movie to shoot because it was a very small, low-budget affair, and when that happens, you tend to sort of muck in and you really become a group. And I've taken away some really, really great friends from that. And you know, it was my friend Conrad Begg who directed it. It was his first film, and so you know, there's always going to be those sort of people are always going to have their critiques on the movie and everything, but I just thought it's quite a love letter to Galway, which is a really special place, and the music provided by one of my, now as a result of this film, one of my best friends, Alton Connolly, and my other friend Jim McKee. I just found that the music, that was my way in. I was like, oh, the songs are good. If the songs are good, then we've got a shot. But we were still wrestling with that film as we were making it. We were chopping and changing and rewriting it. And so I think you can see in the final product that, you know, maybe we could have done a few things differently, but there's a lot of heart there and there's some humor there. And the soundtrack I still think is pretty strong. So yeah, it was a lovely one to do. And funnily enough, Alton Connolly, who has remained a very close friend of mine, one of the things that I did in the pandemic, at the beginning of the pandemic, is I started up an online acting school, because I've been talking about doing this for a long time. In fact, you know, about 2 years ago, I was about to do it in person. You know, I was going to go to New York, going to London, go to Los Angeles, or, you know, do one in Los Angeles and a few other places around the world. But logistically, it was quite hard to kind of get all the nuts and bolts working. And then as soon as I got close, I'd book a job and then it would put it on hold. But when the pandemic happened, my brother came to visit me, and all 5 of my siblings and my mum and dad are all teachers. They teach either school or Irish dancing. And I saw my brother teaching over Zoom, and I was like, I think I could do this. So we kind of launched it in, I think it was May, June, July. I can't even remember now, because, you know, time doesn't really matter anymore, does it? And we launched it, and so now we've been teaching, you know, 40 or 45 students from all around the world, and it's been tremendous fun, and it's given me something to really focus on, because, as I say, it's very difficult in our industry to do anything at the moment. And I wasn't really sure, because I'd coached one-to-one before, but I'd never taught a class. So I was sort of learning as I was going, as were they. And now we kind of have a real school, and it's been so, it's really, really helped me, and the students all seem to be having fun, and it couldn't have come at a better time, really, because it just gives me some, you know, I do 4 or 5 classes in the week, and it just keeps me from going, like all of us, a little bit stir crazy when we're, you know, even here in Antigua.
Brilliant. That sounds fantastic. Do you find yourself saying teachery things like, excuse me, no talking at the back of the class? Excuse me.
You know, it's funny you should say that. Last night, one of my students was holding up this adorable, and it was an adorable puppy. And I was like, can you put the puppy down? The rules of the school, the rules of the class is no phones, no cats, no dogs. Purely because the dog was so adorable, nobody's going to be listening to me. We're like, oh, it's so cute. So I'm like, listen, if you're in Stella Adler's or Lee Strasberg's class, they would say, what on earth are you doing with a puppy in the class? So, but it's difficult. You know, I'm teaching from home, they're teaching from home. So those lines where, you know, you'd normally go into a classroom environment and leave the world outside, I have to try and recreate that. And I sort of say, please, let's treat it as if we're in a classroom, and you know, nobody on their phones, nobody distracted and stuff like that. So yeah, I am. I mean, also having parents and siblings that are teachers, it's quite easy to drift into that teacher vernacular. And my dad, being an Irish, you know, teacher, he doesn't suffer any nonsense in his class, and I can see a lot of my dad coming out in my lessons.
Hilarious. The other thing, oh gosh, I've watched virtually everything. I watched you as Ian Fleming in Timeless.
Oh wow! Oh,
and
thank you.
I couldn't help thinking, was there a bit of you thinks, God, you know, I'd still love to play Bond or just be, I mean, nobody gets that, how few in your profession get that close? I've played Ian Fleming, and they were, you know, there was Never Say Never Again references and all that kind of thing. It was just, I was like, oh, I bet he's loved this.
Honestly, I've described this a couple of times, or I've used this expression a couple of times, but on this particular job, it was like, they were like, hey, do you want to go to fantasy camp for a couple of weeks? I mean, this wasn't remotely a job. This was, I mean, one of the things that scared the hell out of me is I had to speak quite a lot of German in it. And obviously I don't speak fluent German. So that was a bit of an obstacle, but I had a wonderful teacher who helped me. But like in typical fashion, I was just doing one bit at a time, and I had like a 2 or 3 page scene in just full German, you know, line. And I was like, and German is very specific, like a lot of languages, very specific. So if you say something slightly wrong, it means something entirely different, which gets some laughs from German people going, no, don't say that. That's not what you're supposed to say. But once I had learned a big 3-4 page scene in German, I got to set, and they're like, yeah, we've cut that scene. We're going to go straight onto this. And I was like, no! That was 5 days work of learning German, and now it's just gone. But Yeah, I mean, there isn't an Irish British actor alive that would say, no, I don't want to play James Bond. Of course, it's the dream role for any guy. And yeah, I dare say this is the closest I'll ever get to it. But it was such a well-written episode. It was such a great show. And I really got to live out a childhood fantasy. And just coming home every night after filming, I was like, this is amazing. So I was super proud of that. And I was so grateful to those guys for letting me have the opportunity to kind of, just get within that close of 007.
Fantastic. Are you? You've done amazingly well. They always say, it's like bands and whatever, trying to crack America. Do you feel like you've cracked America?
I don't know if I'd say that I cracked it. I've always had I'm a working class lad from Ilford, and so you are not allowed to have grand opinions about yourself. And if you dare sort of say anything like, yeah, I've cracked America, you'd literally be stoned by all your friends. Do you know what I mean? So I wouldn't say I've cracked it. My attitude was always, I'm a working class lad who just likes to work. And as a kid, I started on Grange when I was about 10 years old, and I remember going to bed every night praying to God, just saying, please God, let me have a career as an actor. If I could just make a living out of it, that's enough. I don't have to win an Oscar. I don't have to, although I'd like to, I don't have to have all of those lofty things. I just love what I do so much, and I've got so much passion for it. And every day that I go on a set, even now, in my 40s, I get that tingle and I get that feeling. So my hope and my dream was just to have a career, just to keep working. And I've had a couple of tough years where it goes up and down, like for all of us in life. But I just felt if I could just keep working, and America has been incredibly good to me. Warner Brothers, especially, have been just brilliant to me over the years, and I've made a number of shows for them. And yeah, my feeling is just keep your head down and work hard, and don't try and write your own reviews, and don't try and make any declarations about what you think you've achieved. It's not really for me to say, but the fact that I'm going into my 40th or 41st year as an actor, and I still have a career, just makes me feel incredibly lucky and grateful. And I hope I can I was just saying to a friend yesterday, who said, well, when are you going to retire? And I was like, retire? I'm an actor. You don't retire, you die. You just keep going until they put you in a box and ship you out. But, and nor would I want to. I mean, it's such a great passion for me. And it's like life, it never stops throwing new things at you. I mean, I never thought I'd get to play an Irish singer-songwriter. I mean, I had to learn the guitar to make that movie, and now playing the guitar is one of my favourite things in the world to do. I'm not very good at it, but I just enjoy it as therapy. And playing Ian Fleming, or playing a pig, a very misogynistic pig, as I did in The Magicians recently, it keeps giving you new, exciting challenges, and it just never wears off for me. So I just feel really, really blessed and lucky that I still get to do this for a living,
I was going to ask you a bit about the music. Is musical, I know it's a bit of a random one, but your voice is so good. Is musical theatre, has that ever one appeal? Does it two ever come up? Is it,
you know what? When I was younger, during, I can't even remember because it's 20 years ago now, but when I was doing the as some people put it, my ill-fated pop career, I read that recently. I was like, bravo, sir, nice prose. That was a strange thing. I never wanted to be a musician. I never wanted to be a pop star, and a series of events led me to it. I was asked by a couple of big managers, do you want to do this? And I was like, no, I can't sing, I can't write, I don't play an instrument. It would seem morally wrong to do so. And then I had a very bad motorcycle accident and nearly died. And when I was lying in the hospital sort of recovering, I was like, I could be dead. I'm an actor. Why not just treat it like a role and see if I can play the part of a pop star, which I did-ish. And it opened a lot of doors, and it changed a lot of things in my career. But I was young and undisciplined, and, like any lad who's 21, I wanted to go down the pub and do all the things that 21-year-old lads do. And so I never really put my effort and my heart and my soul into it, which I regret. But then a few offers came to do musicals. And again, I just didn't have the discipline or the intelligence to know how to approach it. And I never really gelled with musical theatre. And now, as I've got older, Hamilton really kind of changed a lot for me, because I think it's probably one of the greatest pieces of art, just period, of the last 30, 40 years. So I know Lin-Manuel quite correctly wants to keep it a cast of colour, but if ever the chance came up to play King George in Hamilton, or even for a charity event to play Hamilton himself, I would jump at it. But now that I'm a little older and hopefully a little bit wiser, I would love to do a play. But as I say, obviously we're in a COVID world where you can't even gather 3 people around the Christmas table for dinner. But I think we'll get through that soon. And I think I'm very optimistic, and I think we're going to come back. This is the 20s. So this is going to be our roaring 20s. When we get out of COVID, I think I hope we're going to be a lot more grateful, a lot more sort of understanding of how connected we are around the world. Maybe those of us who decided that science is I don't know, can shut up and sit down, and we can let scientists lead the way. And I think we're going to get better. And I think when we do, things like theatres, I think, are going to be an incredible place of energy. And so the idea of doing a musical now, and again, there's so many more gifted, talented people ahead of me that should get the job. But if the opportunity came up, I'd certainly jump at it now.
Hey, what do you like as a personality? Can you roll with the blows? Are you a warrior? I think in your profession, you a bit like mine. You kind of try and be as equal on everything as you can. It doesn't always work. I know certainly I'm up and down like God knows what. But what about you?
Yeah. I chose an occupation that is the most fraught with unemployment and then, cancel culture and all of that. You just don't know how long you are going to be, in the game for. So I think that first thing is, now I approach every job as if it could be my last. Like this could be the last thing I do. So it's got to be good, no matter how small it is. The attention to detail, the effort, the work ethic, it has to be on point, because that's the only thing that can alleviate my worry and my stress. Because when I'm lying in bed going, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know. I mean, they've given me the job, but what if I? So I remember hearing Will Smith saying in an interview, I might not be the best looking, I might not be the best actor, but you will not beat me at work ethic. When it comes to work ethic, I'll outwork everybody. And I was like, that's a really good point. If you put the work in, I think the anxiety is replaced by the effort. And so what I tried to do now is really just throw myself into it, and really, then at least I know I left it all on the field. I did everything I could. And, no matter what you do, especially in this social media world, some people will praise you, some people will vilify you and say mean things. I just can't control any of that. So I've started to pull back from those kind of things, because I found it was taking up a lot of my bandwidth. And it was inducing more anxiety and more worry. And I think that that's the case for a lot of people. I think that the rise in social media and the rise in mental health issues are not completely separate. So I'm trying to sort of look at my life and sort of go, where am I inducing more worry and anxiety? And those kind of things, I think, do pour gasoline on the fire. So now less of that and more of cracking the books and trying to get myself prepared for a role. That seems to help with the worry. But like everybody, I mean, especially now, I mean, you only have to turn on the news and you just think, is this Armageddon? Is this the end of days? So I tend to think, just somebody once said to me, and it was a great piece of advice, he said, just play your own ball. Don't worry about where everybody else is. Just focus on your ball, because you can't change anything else. You can only focus on what you've got. And if you focus on that, it'll give you your best shot at taking your best shot,
Your career's been so varied, which is fantastic. Do you find now people go, right, we've got a sci-fi romantic fantasy show coming up. Oh, we get that Maguire, get him on the phone. Does that
it's very funny you should say that, because I literally got sent a script last night, which is a sci-fi sitcom that's already on the air, and it's to play somebody in full prosthetics and stuff, because I did this show called The Magicians where I played 2 separate roles, and one of them, as I said earlier, I played like a literal man pig, and it was one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life, because as an actor we're sort of bound by our physicality and by the way we look and the way we move, but when you put on 35-40 pounds of prosthetics and you're completely, when I got fully made up, I just couldn't see me at all. I could not see me in there. Contacts, teeth, the whole 9 yards. And so I was like, wow, I think I want to do more of this. But it's also, it's quite grueling, 4 or 5 hours sitting in the makeup chair at the beginning of the day, and then you do a full day, and then plus you sweat like I am now because it's because we haven't got the AC on because it would be very noisy. That's sort of tricky. But so when I got this audition for this thing last night, I was like, oh, you know what, I wouldn't mind having a go at that again. But you know, like every working actor, you know, I tend to sort of just throw my hat in the ring. But if it's something that I don't think I can bring anything to, I'll just say, because there's so many great, talented people out there. When I think you go after everything, you end up doing a lesser job. So now I just sort of think, if I find my way in, like, oh, I know what I'd do with this. And, you know, whether it's sci-fi, whether it's romance, whether it's even just like a basic drama, I've got to find something where I think, yeah, I think I know what I'd do with this guy. I think I know how I'd try to bring it to life. Because if I can't find my way in after a couple of days of looking at it, then I go, maybe this is not for me. You know, it's not in my wheelhouse.
Are you at a stage where you could actually say to your agent, or look, I really fancy, I've not done this before, I fancy doing this, or, you know, can you look out for a role like this for me? Is that part of the game? Or
yes and no. I wouldn't want it to sound like I'm one of those actors that just has a pile of scripts on their desk saying this one and I'll work with this. I'm not at that level. But I have been doing it long enough where I think it was about 10 years ago, I just finished a long run on like 3 or 4 shows, and I said, you know, TV is a very specific type of beast, as you know, and theatre is very different. I mean, theatre is the actor's medium. Film is a director's medium, and television is a producer's medium, meaning you are kind of a bit of a puppet and a prop within TV and film to some degree. Whereas theatre, once you've got it and you're on stage, it's all you know what I mean? And so I said to him, I want to do a really challenging play. If there's anybody out there that would take me, not thinking that would kind of come around. And then he called me a couple of weeks later and said, Bill Kenwright wants to have a meeting with you. And I was like, wow, really? Bill Kenwright, owner of Everton, biggest theatre producer in the West End? And he said, yeah. And I was like, Jesus, I'll be straight on a plane. So I came over and I met the enigmatic, incomparable Bill Kenwright, who is one of the funniest, coolest guys you could ever meet. And I'll tell you a story. As I'm coming in his office, he's got this amazing long office in London. It's filled with Everton memorabilia. And he's on the phone. He's like, and he goes, yeah, really? Yeah, that much? All right. And I'm thinking, what am I walking in on? And he puts the phone down. He goes, just been offered 20 million for X player. And I was like, oh. Because I'm a football nut. And I was like, what are you going to do? And he goes, what do you think? And I'm like, what do I think? What does it matter? I know nothing. But straight away, I just loved him and got on very well. And he said, I've got a play, a Charles Dickens play that I've had 5 ghost stories amalgamated together. But it's a 2-hander, meaning just you and one other actor. So when there's only 2 of you on stage for 2.5 hours, if one of you forgets their lines, you're in big trouble. And the actor that I was working with was considerably older than I. And as you get a bit older, obviously, it's a bit harder to retain the lines. And so the actor I was working with had considerable trouble learning his lines. And after that experience, I was like, I don't want to do this again for a while, because I nearly had a heart attack every night waiting to see if he could remember what the next line was, because there's no other actor to turn to and go, come on, mate, help me out. Do you know what I mean? So you'd have to just, at one point, he just looked at me like a deer in the headlights, and he had all the lines. So I just had to say, my lord, I will go to the study and fetch the ledger, which is not in the play, and went over to the DSM and said, where are we in the play? He came back and just looked at him and said, my lord, and as if to say, this is where we are. Please don't stop. Please just drive through it. So, you know, that's why it's a fun occupation, because it nearly kills you, but it makes you also feel ironically very alive. So, but yeah, I mean, theatre's definitely a different experience, and I hope when, you know, COVID lifts, for the good of our industry, that people will get back to the theatres and start supporting the arts and stuff.
Do you get nervous? Are you a nervous type, even in TV, or, you know, when and does it depend who you're acting with at all?
Not really. I mean, yes, there's one, and prepare yourself, because I'm going to name drop like it's going out of fashion here. But I was only in America for a couple of years, and I'd done a movie with the great Martin Short and Billy Connolly, and the nicest just the nicest.
You had a
decent
sword
family.
fight with Billy Connolly. If there's anything that tops that in your career, a sword fight with Billy Connolly in Prince
Mate,
Charming.
do you know what? When I got
this
that
morning.
job, I was like, Billy Connolly has to spend time with me. He has no choice,
Legend.
even if he hates me. I honestly, and to say that I revere him would be a wild understatement. And so, you know, I got to work with him and Martin, and Martin, here's the name droppy bit, is very good friends with Tom Hanks. And Tom Hanks does a thing with his wife every year, Rita Wilson, where they do a Shakespeare reading in Los Angeles called Simply Shakespeare. And it's a gala event where tickets are very expensive and they raise money to bring Shakespeare into inner city schools. And Martin Short said, would you like to come do this thing with Tom Hanks? And I was like, what? Tom Hanks? He's like a god. He's my hero. And so I was like, yes. And so I don't normally get nervous because I normally do my work and my prep. But on the way to the theatre, this is sort of about 18 years ago, before sat-nav, before smartphones, and me trying to, I had the worst sense of direction on the planet. And so I'm trying to navigate Los Angeles and finally got there. And this table, I mean, it's just all movie stars. All the people that I've watched, loved growing up with, Robin Williams, Billy Crystal, Martin Sheen, just on and you know, you see this room and I'm late. And I've come in and I'm like, and there's a seat. There's one seat empty between Tom Hanks and Anthony Hopkins. And I thought I was either going to pass out or wet myself. And so I don't normally suffer from nerves, but at that point I was like, oh, sweet Jesus, oh God. And as I sat down, the great Anthony Hopkins just patted me on the back and went, don't worry, you're here now, you're here now. I just looked at him like, is it wrong if I kiss you now on the mouth? Because I want to. But again, I think something to do with being at the top of your profession. They're all so nice and so generous and so kind that it made me realize, 20 odd years ago, right, so if these guys are nice and they're kind and there is no excuse ever to act like whatever, it's just never okay, because if these guys who are literally legends and icons in the business can be so supportive and kind, then it was a reminder to me, never behave anything other than professional and kind and generous, and hit your mark and say your line, and don't be late when you're going into a room where everyone else is an icon and you're just some kid from Milford. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, in answer to your question, that was one occasion when I got very, very nervous. But a lot of the time it's more like a feeling of electricity. Like, all right, let me get on. I'm sure like a player before a match, you're just like, I just want to get on. I'll feel better once I kick the ball, Once I've delivered my first line, I relax a little bit.
Yeah, my old boss, he's legend of TV, sports TV, he wouldn't let us ever have autocue, which, and I was like, that first few seconds when the light goes on, and you're thinking, right, if you can just get it's exactly what you said, get a good early touch in, you're flying, everything goes.
Yeah,
yeah, it's that early touch you want to.
It's just getting that out of the way, and then you're in it, aren't you?
Yeah. Who's your do you follow football? Who's your footy team?
I am a very, very passionate Tottenham Hotspur fan.
God, do you know, there's no one I don't speak to anybody who's not a Spurs fan these days. Everybody I speak to, Spurs. What about Jose? Are you a Jose fan?
I'll be honest. I loved Pochettino so much, and I wanted to win the league with Pochettino. I really did, because I just love how he is. I love how he carries himself, and Jose, like a lot of people, I saw him as this kind of larger than life character. And to be honest, I wasn't happy initially, but you know what? He is who he is, and his stats speak for himself. And having watched the All or Nothing documentary, I was like, I kind of love him now. I understand him now, and. I think, as you said, a lot of people seem like they're Spurs fans now. When you're born in 1976 and you haven't won a cup in 30 years, and, I've never seen my team win the league. I mean, the best we've ever done in my lifetime is the FA Cup. Before it was the Champions League, we won the UEFA Cup in like 1980 or whatever it was, when I was 5 or something. But I genuinely believe that Jose could be the manager that actually might get us across the finish line. Maybe, I don't know about this season, but I I mean, when you look at Harry Kane, you look at Son, you look at the stadium, you look at the facilities, and you look at the energy of the club and the kind of players that we're attracting now, and his winning mentality. I think even the most uncertain are starting to cross over to maybe he's our man, you know. And I have to say, I think he's changed a lot as a manager. That bravado and that arrogance seems to have given way to much more cautious modesty. So, you know, I think he's learned a lot. And I think a lot of us that love and are passionate about football see this while it's happening. And, you know, maybe like Liverpool had to wait a long time before Jurgen came along and brought them to this extraordinary level that they're at. So I'm hoping that it's our turn soon. But, you know, we'll see.
Voyage Around My Father, Meet the Spartans, which is obviously, I watched that as well.
I'm so sorry. I can't give you that hour and a half back.
No, listen. That's wrong. It was massive at the box office. Don't ever dish. That was just Carmen Electra.
Yeah, that's true.
What if you had a choice? Forget COVID. If you had a choice now, what would you like to do? Is there a role? Is there something that you'd say? You know, if I could do it, if you said, right, ER, you can have this. What would it be? What would you do?
Well, I would say I think we're firmly in a golden era of television because of, and this was pre-COVID, because people tend to have bigger TVs, better home theatre, because of the introduction of Netflix and Hulu and Apple and all of that. TV is sort of giving way to the way cinema was, you know, in the 1970s when we had the golden era of cinema. I think TV now, a lot of the best writers, the best actors, the best directors are now going, let's go TV. That was sort of unheard of. You were either TV or you were a movie. When I was a kid, I grew up as a TV actor. And a lot of people said, well, you'll never do movies. And I said, well, I started doing a movie. That was my first job. And they're like, yeah, but you did TV. So there were all these old rules. And there was a lot of, if you're working class, you're probably not going to make it to that upper echelon. A lot of that has changed so much. I think now we're all watching shows from around the world, whether it's a show from Israel or from Canada or from Sweden or Germany, whatever. It's just best show wins now. And I think we've opened our eyes to the quality that there is around the world. And so I think, you know, given the chance, I mean, you know, a show like Peaky Blinders, a show like The Crown, I think is just an extraordinary feat of television. I mean, that to me is like cinematic television. I mean, it is the most expensive television show ever made, and it looks it. And the acting, I mean, I speak to my students, even last night I was teaching a class, and I said, if you haven't watched The Crown, watch it, because this is some of British acting at its very, very finest. So I think unless I'm going to play a footman or a milkman or something, I don't know if I'm going to get my foot in the door at The Crown. But stuff like that. I mean, I think as I'm getting older, the roles get more interesting as you get into your 40s. You know, when you're 20, you've only got a 20-year-old's life experience. But now, as a dad and as somebody who's been around the block a little bit, you can start bringing a little bit more to roles. So, I mean, almost anything HBO make, you know, just a high bar of quality. So it's a very exciting time to be an actor, or, you know, as I say to my students, for those coming into the industry, be aware it is, other than maybe professional football, one of the most competitive industries in the world. But when it works, it's like, you know, a little touch of heaven. So you got to really kind of put your back in and just try and find a way to work your way through what's not working for you. And sometimes you get a shot at that, at grabbing that brass ring.
Hey, listen, switch the aircon on again. You've done brilliantly for me. The kids are so well behaved. Congratulations to them. Absolutely fantastic.
They're upstairs, sort of hidden behind a mattress.
Yeah, no,
and my wife just gagged them.
Yeah, same with Dad. We can't get the Wi-Fi. Get off the Wi-Fi. Hey, listen, lovely talking to you. Hope Spurs do well this season a little bit.
Rob.
Thanks for your time. You take care of yourself, and hopefully we'll speak again very soon.
Yeah, I hope so. And thank you for taking the time to go through my whole career. I'm really flattered and honoured, Rob.
Gram and Twitter and the whole thing now. I'm really fascinated to see what you do next.
Thank you, mate. Really appreciate that. Take care, buddy.